Hello again. Hope you had a great week. All right, so I'm going to do the Chapter 3 summary, and I'm going to start with the first question. So, what is a history? So, a history reveals the time at which the complaint started with the disorder and the patient's observations of the disorder. It also reveals information about the onset and course of the problem, and then the patient's awareness of that problem and the degree to which it limits or alters that patient's activities. It said that 90% of the diagnoses are dependent on the patient's history, which is crazy. I mean, that's a very, very high percentage, and no two histories are ever the same. So it also, the book talked about how the history needs to be controlled by the clinician and not by the student or not by the patient. So yeah, all right, second question. Why is collecting history so important? Well, it changes, it influences the depth in which the speech language pathologist or the speech language pathologist assistant can, help with the prognosis or the diagnosis and how the management of all of that should be handled. And so I think it's incredibly important because it makes all the difference in therapy and the diagnoses. So, what are the 6 salient features? Well, it's strength, speed, range, steadiness, accuracy, and tone. So that was 6. Okay. And I mean, most of them are self-explanatory. I don't know if you wanted us to get more in depth. I should have emailed you about that, so I apologize. My bad. But yeah. So on to the next question. Discuss briefly basic components of the examination of the speech mechanism during non-speech activities. So what are you looking at? When do you look at them? Etc. etc. I was super confused at the beginning when I was reading through this chapter until I came to these pages with the demonstrations in the book. I found them to be so beneficial for me to understand what each one meant and stuff. So I'm really, really grateful that those were in the book. So the first one would be the face at rest. When so like basic questions to ask is like is the face symmetric? Are the angles of the mouth symmetric? So, which, yeah, I think the book did an awesome job in the descriptions and stuff. And then when looking at the face at rest, how you would, what are you looking at? You would just have the student relax and look forward and then breathe out. So that's basically how you would examine the face at rest. The face during sustained postures would be after asking the student a bunch of questions and analyzing, the way all of it works together, tied together. The face during movement is just the student speaking. So like the students just during speech. So the jaw at rest would be just having the student relax and have their jaw either lightly closed or slightly open, just so it's relaxed and you can tell. The jaw during sustained postures would just be mouth opening, and the jaw during movement would be opening and closing, so you want that range of motion. And like I said, the book was awesome for me to see different things because I am such a visual learner. So I'm really grateful for that again. The tongue at rest would be just having the student open his or her mouth, and have the student and just have the tongue rest on the mouth of the floor of the mouth. I'm sorry. And then the tongue during sustained postures is protrude tongue and then sustain the posture. The tongue during movement, just move the tongue side to side as fast as possible, which I found that one super interesting. The velar pharynx at rest, open mouth as wide as possible. So, I mean, that's as self-explanatory as can be. And then the velar pharynx during movement, you just have the student prolong the ah sound. So, those are, easy enough. And like I said, the pictures were crucial for me. Just because I found, resisting the pressure, when they talked about that, I was like, okay, so how would you resist the pressure? Do this, do that. And they use like a popsicle stick or whatever, but just like to have your tongue push against it and hold, and just see if they can resist that pressure and stuff. So, on to the last question. Discuss briefly the basic components of the assessment of perceptual speech characteristics. What are the tasks and what are you looking for? So, vowel prolongation. Have the patient take a deep breath in and say ah for as long and as steadily as the patient can until he or she runs out of air. Alternating motion rates or AMRs. So have the patient take a breath and repeat puff, puff, puff for as long and steadily as the patient can. So, again, very self-explanatory. Backtracking. For vowel prolongation, you want to look at the jaw, the face, tongue, and neck is what you should watch when assessing that. And then for alternating motion rates, you should look at the jaw and the lips and the range of motion as well. Sequential motion rates, you just have the student take a deep breath and repeat pa-ta-ka over and over and over until told to stop. So, it's on you when you want them to stop. Contextual speech, have the child just go into a conversation or participate in narration. So have them read something out loud to you. That's doable as well. Or just like a simple paragraph, doesn't matter. Stress testing. So testing speech muscle strength before and after. And then by doing this, it may confirm weakness within the mouth. And to assess fatigue, the patient should read aloud. So again, have the patient read a book or a paragraph or whatever you want them to read. And then assessing motor speech planning and programming capacity. Just have the child or the student engage in trial error groping for correct articulate postures during conversation or reading. So those are the questions that you wanted for the review. But again, this chapter was a lot easier for me to understand, I think, than the previous chapters. I was feeling a little overwhelmed, and this is a little better. Obviously, still need the notes a little bit when talking about it on video because I'm not quite used to doing this. But hopefully by the end of the next couple weeks, I'll have it down pat. So, all right, I think that's all for now. I will see you next week.